In some cases, Jewish men divorced and remarried multiple times because of this. I mean, just think about marriage. Any time you hit a conflict in the marriage, if you have this easy out, this no-fault divorce, you can just divorce her, right? And so you had men in that society who divorced and remarried multiple times. And so the Pharisees now, testing Jesus, they ask him, well, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for just any reason? That's the popular view. That's what most people believe, that you could divorce for just any reason. And they're trying to get Jesus to state his position on this debated topic. Again, they're trying to trap him here. And they may have also asked Jesus this question because of where they were geographically. Remember, whenever you read any detail in the Bible, God has put that there on purpose. He's not just sharing just random information with you. And so you want to ask, why did he tell me that? Why does God tell us that he is in Judea beyond the Jordan, and now they're asking him a question publicly about his opinion on divorce? Well, that area where they're located was ruled by Herod Antipas. And Herod Antipas is the Herod who imprisoned and beheaded John the Baptist. Remember why John the Baptist was beheaded? Because he publicly condemned Herod for divorcing his wife and marrying Herodias. And that cost John his head. And so the Pharisees may be trying to force Jesus to publicly state his position on divorce here so that they can go to Herod Antipas and tell Herod Antipas, hoping Herod will do the same thing to Jesus that he did to John the Baptist. Jesus responds in verse 4. Now look at his answer here. It's so wonderful. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh? So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. Jesus begins his answer by saying, have you not read? Now, these are Pharisees. They have memorized the Bible. And so Jesus here, by saying this, he's taking a dig on them. Here, they're trying to trap him publicly, and he comes right back at them and humiliates them publicly, saying, well, have you not read? It's like saying, have you not read the Bible? Now, note here, and this is important, the way that Jesus answered this question. They question Jesus about divorce, and Jesus takes them to the Word of God. You should always, always get your answers from the Word of God. Not the opinions of men, but what does the Bible say? And when someone asks you a question, take them to the Scriptures. Take them to the Scriptures. And look what Jesus says here. He says, let's go back and look at the first marriage. Let's go back and look at the first marriage and see what God intended for marriage when he created it. The question should not be, when is divorce permissible, or for what cause can you get divorced? The question really should be, well, what did God intend for marriage when he created it? What did God intend? What's his purpose for marriage? In a marriage relationship, it's always good to go back and look at what God says in his word about marriage. What does God say in his word to the husbands? What does God say in his word to the wives? It's good to be reminded of those things. It's good to go back and look at those verses again and remind yourself of what you're called to. And then to ask the Lord to search your heart and show you where you're falling short and what God has called you to be as a husband or as a wife. And Jesus takes them back to the first marriage. He takes them back to the first two chapters of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, and the creation of Adam and Eve. Now, Jesus believed the Genesis account of creation. He believed that there was a literal, historical Adam and Eve who were created in the image and likeness of God. Look at verse 4 again. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female? Adam and Eve were made by God. They were created, is the idea here. And Jesus says, note this, they were created at the beginning of his creation. On the sixth day, they were created. Jesus did not believe that man evolved over millions and millions and millions of years. And so I like to point this out. If you believe that man evolved over millions and millions of years and was not created in the image and likeness of God, and that Adam was not the first man, you have a different view on creation and where man came from than Jesus Christ does. And oh, by the way, in Colossians it says that all things were created by Jesus. He was there, you weren't. And note also it says that God created them male and female. God created mankind with only two genders. And God decides the gender of each person. Never thought I'd have to say that. And there's a reason, as we see in the marriage relationship, we see that there's a reason God designed mankind male and female. He says in verse 5, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined, note that word joined, to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Verse 6, so then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. And we see here in the Genesis story that God created marriage. Marriage is the only thing that we have still today from the Garden of Eden. It's the only thing that we still have from the Garden of Eden. And a husband and wife are joined together in marriage. That word joined there, it means literally to be glued together. If you've ever done any woodworking, like when you glue two boards together and make them one board, they are no longer two individual people. A man and a woman are joined together, glued together in marriage. They're no longer two individuals now. They become one flesh. They're one. Now, back in the Genesis account, if you remember, with each day of creation, God would say, and it was good. Everything he created, each day, it was good. It was good. And when he created man on the sixth day, God said, it's very good. Right? Man was the pinnacle of God's creation. But then when God saw that man was without a wife, God said, it's not good. That's the first time that God says something's not good in his creation. It's not good for man to be alone. And so God created Eve for Adam and created Eve out of Adam's side. And then the two were joined together as husband and wife, and the two became one flesh.